I did with my mom, they loved it. They thought it was very cool. We started having a conversation about this becoming a real feature film, et cetera, et cetera. But then toward the end of it, my mom got this little interesting look on her face. And for all the people out there who know their moms, you know when they get that look, that there's something going on in their head that they don't want to quite tell you about because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So they're sitting there quietly trying to figure out how to tell you they don't like something. So when I saw that, I said, hey, Mom, what's wrong? And she said, well, I'm not a big fan of how you ended the story because I believe that it's not believable. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, if he burns down the house and then leaves, at some point in time, the police are going to come looking for him. And for this to be a good story, I believe you have to wrap it up so that because we've come to like this guy, you have to wrap it up so he can get away scot-free. Now, just as she said that, my niece, on the other hand, goes, no, don't touch it. She liked the fact that it ended with a little bit of an edge. So here it is, guys. We're putting this to a vote. Should we leave this ending the way it is, or should we have it where there's a little bit more edge to the way we end it? Maybe Miller burns the house down, then he ditches the cars in the lake, and then he goes to the bank, he takes out all the money, and basically just throws his life away. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys to decide who's right and who's wrong. And the way you can do that is email me at thiswouldakeagreatmovie@gmail.com. And like I've done with several other shows, I'm going to take the results and reveal them on the next show. We're having a lot of fun with this because it's a family internal debate. So trust me, whoever ends up being right on that, the person who loses will not hear the end of it. So make sure you guys vote because we really need you to help break this tie. All right, let's get into the fantasy cast. And I'm going to tell you this week, it is more than just a fantasy cast. I'm calling this the power team. And that's because if we were lucky enough to get this caliber of talent together, it really would be probably the most dynamic cast ever. So with that being said, the person who I'm picking to play Miller Hoffman, I actually had in mind when I was coming up with the concept. It's someone who I've watched over the years in several movies and have come to believe that this is the best actor on the planet Earth. And that person is Denzel Washington. I know you know who Denzel Washington is, but just in case some of you have been off the planet for the last 15 years, he played in Training Day, Inside Man, Book of Eli. He starred in Malcolm X, Philadelphia, and so on and so on and so on. So I can easily say with confidence, based on just that pool of movies, that again, Denzel Washington is the most talented actor on the planet. And if by chance I get lucky enough in my dreams to have him play the role of Miller Hoffman, I believe not only could he represent Miller when he's locked away in his mind and find a way to pull that off on the big screen, but he could also have that edge at the end when he kills Greg and Rita after remembering they were planning to take his business from him and having an affair. I believe Denzel Washington would add the charisma and the smoothness and the coolness to really pull that scene off. So for that reason alone, I have to pick Denzel Washington to play Miller Hoffman because, again, we're picking a power team for this movie. And to play Rita, again, we have to go with someone who could pull out the role that's beautiful and attractive enough to really stand toe-to-toe with Denzel and hang that scene at the end. And that is Zoe Saldana. Man, I don't know, again, people are going to say, well, we know who that is, but I'm going to give you her resume anyway. She played in Avatar, Guardians of the Galaxy. She's in the reboot of Star Trek. She played in one of my favorite movies, Columbiana. The girl is not only attractive, but again, just like Denzel, a very powerful and dramatic actress. So I believe that she can come in, stand toe-to-toe, but at the end, come off as being someone you don't like very much. So she would be able to flip that script and become the bad guy at the end. So for that reason, because we're picking a power team, I'm going with Zoe Saldana to play Rita. And so finally, I thought about this. If you're going to have Denzel Washington play Greg and you're going to have Zoe Saldana play Rita, you have to go with someone else who's powerful enough to hang in those scenes with them. And I'm going with my man, Will Smith. I've been a huge fan of his since Men in Black. I loved him in the Bad Boy series. I think he was awesome in I Am Legend. Every time iRobot comes on, I watch that over and over again because, again, Will was very good in that as well. And I think that he would make a great Greg. He needs to be someone that can come off as a very astute and savvy businessman And then you almost feel sorry for him when you think that Miller's body is trying to steal money from him and destroy the business. But then at the end, when you find out that Greg is actually a bad guy and someone has been out to get Miller all along, then Will Smith, I think, would be interesting in that scene. Because I don't know if he's ever been in a movie where he's been unlikable. And that's why I'm going to pick him, for not only being a powerful actor, but just to see how he would come off being the bad guy. So for that reason, I'm going with my man Will Smith, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, to play Greg. And I would be so excited to see him go toe-to-toe with Denzel Washington in some of those scenes. Again, we're picking a power cast here, so that's how I'm going to end it with Will Smith. And for a director, I had to look for someone who would be strong enough, creative enough, and has the talent to deal with a multi-talented cast like this. And the first person that popped into my head was Steven Soderbergh. We all know him as having been very successful in directing all of those very talented actors and actresses in Ocean 11. He also is capable of bringing the edge out in this movie. With a movie like Traffic that he directed, I believe this could be kind of in that same kind of vein where it's edgy and kind of makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I also think he can bring that kind of human emotion to it that he brought with Erin Brockovich. All three great movies, and the reason why I'm picking Steven Soderbergh as director. So there it is. That's my power cast. We're going with Denzel Washington to play Miller Hoffman, Zoe Saldana to play Rita. We're going with my man Will Smith to play Greg, and to direct that entire cast of super talent, we're going with super director Steven Soderbergh. All right, so that wraps up another edition of This Would Make a Great Movie. I really want to thank all of you who take the time to leave us reviews on iTunes. For those of you who take the time to email us and offer ways to help us improve the show. And I really want to thank you guys for liking the Facebook page and for sharing this in the various social spaces as well. The show is growing and I owe it all to you. So again, thank you for listening in. If you want to get in touch with the show and you have ideas of your own, please hit me up at thiswouldmakeagreatmovie@gmail.com, or you can visit my blog / website at thiswouldmakeagreatmovie.lipsum.com/podcast. And you can also catch up with me on Facebook. Leave me a comment or either friend me, and I'll get you involved in the conversation about the fantasy cast and some of the different debates that we're presenting during the programming. And I want to tease you guys with the next show that's coming. We actually have an idea where we've taken Star Wars and The Godfather and mixed those two concepts together to present a new and very cool movie idea. So I'm hoping you'll like that. But until that time, thanks for hanging in there. I'll be missing you guys until the next show. But for now, I'm out.